Consumer expectations have never been higher. But with the evolving economic and competitive pressures, it's getting harder for brands to deliver the kind of consistent, compelling experiences that keep customers loyal. Can operations and facilities leaders find ways to meet these demands while growing their footprint and ultimately drive revenue? Let's find out. Welcome to Elevating Brick and Mortar, a show that discusses the crucial role that facilities, construction, and operations play in designing and delivering a compelling customer experience. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 5 of Elevating Brick and Mortar. Thank you for joining us. I'm here today with Joe Gordon, Chief Supply Chain and Technology Officer at Krispy Krunchy Chicken. Joe, welcome.
Thank you, Sid. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. So, Joe, let's get started, right? For folks in our audience who might not be familiar with the brand, can you share some insights into your company, Krispy Krunchy Chicken?
Sure, absolutely. And you either know us and love us, or you don't know who we are. So, great question. So, Krispy Krunchy Chicken, we've been around for about 36 years, primarily in C-stores. We have fantastic, freshly made, hand-breaded Cajun-style chicken in almost 3,500 locations. Really starting to branch out into more chain locations, universities, and sports venues. So very exciting place to be. And again, the people that know our food love us.
Love it. Would love to hear about your journey and how you got here.
Sure. Well, my career can be divided into two chapters. I started my career with very large organizations like Kimberly-Clark and Mead Paper and Wendy's for many years, and really learned how big companies do things with large organizations and lots of resources. Really, the last almost 20 years has been private equity, turnarounds, fast growth, sell companies, IPOs, et cetera. And for 3.5 years or so, I've been with Krispy Krunchy Chicken, really in that private equity space, incredibly fast growing, healthy business, and really setting ourselves up for our next chapter as a company.
You have a vast experience in the restaurant space, and you've had roles in supply chain, and were even a chief restaurant officer. What got you into the space? Like, did you always know you wanted to be in the restaurant industry, or you found your calling as you started your journey?
Yeah, great question, Sid. And like a lot of folks, I had no intentions of being in the restaurant business for a long time. Started my career in CPG. Kimberly-Clark was my first company out of college. And when the opportunity at Wendy's came along, I thought, okay, great opportunity for me to move back to my hometown and be part of something. Dave Thomas was still around at the time, so it was pretty exciting. And so I took all of the supply chain and QA and really big company CPG experience and turned that into really the start of a primarily restaurant career, starting with Wendy's.
You've come from fast-growing, fast casual restaurant spaces as well. What attracted you to Krispy Krunchy?
Several things, Sid, attracted me to Krispy Krunchy. Once I became educated about Krispy Krunchy, the first thing I noticed was the food. When the food is prepared correctly, there's nothing out there like it. As I mentioned before, it's a fresh, lightly Cajun style product, and it just, there's nothing like it out there. And then the culture, right? So when we think about some of our North Stars, and we'll talk about what that looks like for Krispy Krunchy, but it's very important at Krispy Krunchy that we maintain a very good culture based in our southern roots in central Louisiana. And we do what we say, and we say what we do. And as we grow and as we add a lot more people, maintaining that good culture and core values is pivotal. So to summarize, the food is fantastic. The culture is the best that I've ever been involved in my career.
As Chief Supply Chain and Technology Officer, what is your mandate? Do you wake up every day and think about, both in terms of your short-term goals and over the long term?
Yeah, great. Another great question, Sid. So my job, as I see it, and my title and responsibilities throughout my career have changed, and I've always added a lot of things, and not just stayed in one place. My job is to do the really hard stuff and drive efficiency to help make the company profitable and to help the company grow and increase its valuation. So starting with the supply chain side, we're very proud. We have a 99% fill rate consistently with fresh chicken, which leads the industry. We have 70 different distribution points going into almost 3,500 locations. So it's an amazing orchestra. From an openings perspective, we manage the supply chain very closely so that we can open quickly. We open a lot of our locations in 3 weeks. Even new construction, we open much faster than a typical restaurant that's made from greenfield operations. So just really speed, profitability, and then when I think about technology, my technology hat is how do you rebuild the tech stack for not only operational efficiencies for the whole organization, which includes AI, but also how do you build for the digital footprint of the future, which we've started to dip our toe in, off-premise, third-party delivery, first-party delivery. So really, it's just problem solving to help grow the organization and increase our shareholder value.
Yeah, so let's talk about the brand itself, right? You're in over 3,400 locations. That's phenomenal, right? But these are not always your spaces. You're in somebody else's location, like a store-in-store concept. Tell us a little bit about that model. What's your primary kind of model, and what kind of growth does it allow you to have?
Yeah, so several things with that. So I'll start with the overall premise, and that's it's got to be easy. Consistency has to be easy. Onboarding, working with us has to be easy because we are a store within a store. We've got 100 to 200 square feet in most convenience store locations. When we go into a sports venue, for example, we may have 1 to 10 outlets, but it's got to be easy. So everything from the branding to the equipment setup to the opening to the agreement. Like, we're not a franchise. We don't require we're a licensor. So it's easy in, easy out. There's no upfront costs other than equipment. There's no royalties. There's no franchise fees. So really, it's about consistency and ease. So we go into an operator that's never had a food program before, and they say, "Wow, I don't know where to start." And so it starts with that agreement. It starts with the promise of, "Hey, we've got an equipment package that fits in here, and it's a reasonable cost equipment package. We have 100% financing." So another easy button. Let us help you set this up so that it helps you with success. And then, by the way, you're paying for the food, which includes any monies coming back to us, but there's no marketing fee, no royalties or anything. And then we provide a week of support for opening, and then lots of retraining and lots of check-ins with those operators.
Wow. And so, what kind of business would fall into your ICP, into your ideal customer profile? Would love to learn kind of how that started too. And is it pivoting today as you look at, the avenues for growth and how to reach your consumer?
We are in the process of a significant diversification of the business. Our bread and butter has been independent operators that own, 1 to, let's say, 10 locations, and they're looking for a easy button again to be able to be competitive. If you study C-stores, one of their biggest growth opportunities for both sales, bringing in traffic, and profitability is food service, and we are able to provide that to them. So that's been our bread and butter. Sid, it's always going to be a big part of our business. Our evolution in the past couple of years has really moved at what's next? What are those other channels that take us from the 3,500 or so to 5,000 to 10,000? And so, we're looking right now, we just signed a couple of really big C-store chain customers that we're going in, and you'll start to see us in places you hadn't seen us before, in branded locations that are not independent in a big way. Right now, we've got a couple hundred of those. I think that's going to accelerate by hundreds every year going forward. And then another avenue is sports venues. We as of opening day in April, we're the official fried chicken provider for the Boston Red Sox. It's had an amazing impact on our brand awareness, and right now we are entertaining several major sports opportunities out there. We're also looking at what international opportunities are out there, and Also, do we get involved in private label? So lots and lots of opportunities. And I would say when I started with the company 3.5 years ago or so, it was, hey, how do we go after people? And now the conversation, because of our improvement of brand awareness, because of the halo effect with the Red Sox, because of the things that we've done to make the company easier to work with, we're having to decide and prioritize where we go.
Wow. Now, 3,500 locations, especially if you have more of the independents, that's a lot of, I guess, partners that, are leveraging you and your brand to offer some great food to their consumer, right? What kind of independent contractor, well, I guess if I was an independent contractor, what makes your business attractive for me to say, no, I want Crispy Crunchy in my store? Is it the ease of doing business, getting started, like the amount of upfront cash needed, or is it just the food and the loyalty that you're looking to build with your consumer?
Yeah, it's several of those things, Sid. I will tell you that, believe it or not, a lot of people come to a convenience store for Crispy Crunchy Chicken. As I talked about, if you know who we are, you love us. So we've got data, that hard data that supports an average C store will get a lift based upon bringing in Crispy Crunchy. We also see if they decide to separate or we decide to separate, they see a decline in overall retail sales. So a lot of our independents, and especially folks that have been around for a really long time, say what's most important to them is that Crispy Crunchy, the brand, and the raving fans that we have out there, actually improves their overall store sales, which is amazing. We're 20 to 30% of their business. So if you think about we are able to impact 100% of their sales, that's very impactful. You also talked about ease, right? Yeah, there's absolute ease of doing business, as we talked about before. Here's your equipment package. Here's the support we provide. One thing that I didn't talk about a lot is really our digital strategy. Third-party delivery, first-party delivery. So now all of a sudden you've got opportunities in hours that maybe you weren't selling food. A lot of our third-party and first-party delivery business comes in the late afternoon and evening hours, which is an opportunity again to extend their sales. And I guess kind of the last thing I'll point out on this question is, from a profitability perspective, we watch the metrics very closely with NACS and other publications, and we are much more profitable for those operators than most parts of their business, and for the food service category overall.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, in the C-store business, they say the money's on the inside, right? You don't really make money on gas. Why, if you have a great product and consumers are gonna, drive up and come inside, that you'd be a great attraction. Now, what kind of commitment do you expect from the licensee? What do they have to do to qualify to put your brand in their location? What type of, I guess, expectations do you have of them?
We are much more carrot than stick with our operators. We don't have a franchise agreement. Again, they're not obligated to 3 or 4 or 5 year agreement. So again, we've got to make it easy. We've got to make it work for both of us, really on a day-to-day basis, day in, day out. So what are we looking for? We're looking for them to have a minimum amount of foot traffic. We're looking for them to have a commitment to food. And when I say commitment to food, there's various ways to measure this, Sid. But when you go into a store, you can see and feel their level of commitment to food. Are they staffing the counter, the food counter? Or when someone calls off, do they just shut it down? Do they have a passion for food really to drive their business? We find that folks that have more food, that outside of just Crispy Crunchy Chicken, generally do better, right? And again, it's that focus. Do they have a clean location? Is it a place? Our former head of sales said, if my wife wouldn't go to the restroom, we probably shouldn't be serving food. So it's all of those things. And then kind of lastly, the one that's easiest to measure is, are they carrying our core products, right? So we have what we call a core 6, which is our 6 core items. We have many more items than this, but these are the ones when we think about consistency. When a guest orders, whether it's online or they come into one of our locations, we want to make sure that we're serving these 6 items at a minimum. And we find that folks that have that commitment to consistently sell those 6 items and others, they do much better than folks that don't have that level of compliance, that try to cherry pick and say, hey, I'm only going to sell sandwiches, or I'm only going to sell tenders, for example. They generally don't do as well as our operators that are committed.
When you walk into a restaurant, especially now, there's a huge elevation in terms of expectation of what the restaurant space looks like, feels like, the cleanliness, what the bathrooms look like, to your point. So in your business, we're talking about C stores here. How do you ensure that there's a certain consistency and quality and brand standard? And then I'd also love to understand, once you actually say, yes, we've now found a partner, what does that system look like? Do you send branding? Do you send equipment? And then what does the process look like after that?
I'll start with the supply chain because that's one of my primary responsibilities. But when you think about consistency, both in equipment and in food, it comes with having a consistent product and consistent equipment, right? So from a product perspective, we've done a lot of work in having consistency throughout our 70 distribution points and all of our different suppliers, that they have the same product. So we've been very meticulous about that over the past few years. We want folks, when they come in, a chicken sandwich tastes like a chicken sandwich tastes like a chicken sandwich, no matter what. From a equipment perspective and meeting brand standards, we do come in, and we actually have a couple equipment experts on our team that come in and say, well, they've got a fryer that's 15 years old, it's not going to have the right recovery, so we need to have one of our approved fryers, for example. We have a very simple equipment package. It's very durable, and so we end up evaluating, both the field team and our equipment experts going in to say, all right, so we've got the right equipment in there for opening. Okay, so there are multiple site visits, and there's research that's done by our team to qualify equipment that's already in place. So now we've got food and equipment that go in, and we're looking at the traffic pattern of the store. We're looking at trying to assess their commitment to food, right? So if we go into a place and they've never sold food before, we've got questions we ask about, hey, is food more important than motor oil to you? Or is it different? What do you do about staffing? So we ask all those questions, and a lot of times we're right, sometimes we're wrong. Once we sign the license agreement, we could open, like I said before, between 3 weeks or 3 months, depending on what stage the store is at. And we provide a week of intense training with the staff. We have follow-up visits scheduled, and we visit on a recurring basis. So we're kind of the technology and the field kind of come together, and where my teams are assisting our field folks is, they can see certain things on the ground. We are working to completely rebuild our tech stack, Sid, and we're firming up our security so that we can start supercharging our reporting with AI enablement and AI applications. And what that really does is that takes a normal dashboard, and personalize it to the store, to the specific field person, so that they're able to take the data we have without being in the store every day and get a picture with AI support to be able to prioritize, go back and retrain, go back and really help those operators to be more consistent and successful.
Gotcha. Now, if someone does go with the full package from you and has the equipment from you, how do they service it post, go live? And then do you actually provide after opening support as well on a regular basis, or is that up to the independent operator to kind of find their network of providers and follow the kind of guidance you provide?
Yeah, so we help with warranties, and we certainly have a maintenance schedule that we share with them. We really haven't had a lot of appetite. We've had a couple of starts and stops on PM programs that we endorsed, and really haven't gotten a lot of traction. A lot of our independent operators, they have other equipment, they have programs, they have their own handymen, they understand how warranties work. So really hasn't been much of an appetite. There's just not the demand at this point with our independents.
I hear you. Gotcha. On the supply chain side, considering the vast network of independent operators that you have, your supply chain and distribution must be absolutely spot on for you to be able to, get to those locations, provide fresh, great quality product. How much of your experience, from your historical career, has played a role in kind of you figuring out how to do that in a way that is sustainable, but also scalable for growth?
Yeah, it's an awesome question, Sid. I will say that yeah, I've been doing this about 30 years now, and I would not have wanted to have this job sooner in my career. It is the way you've described, and not only the supply chain getting the product, but also the independence. We're 20% of their business. They're entrepreneurs. They may have 10 other businesses that are not C-store related, and so it's not just what you said. It's not just being precise in the supply chain and being able to pivot and being able to execute every day at so many different points. But it's also, sometimes they don't order every week, for example, because they're out of the country or they're having a cash flow issue or what have you. And so they're doubling up on an order. So think about all the different data points and being able to have to pivot and create flexibility in the supply chain. So I would say I've built a toolbox over 30 years working in large and small organizations, and this by far is the most complex.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. It just, I guess, underscores the fact that you got to be really having some scalable systems and repeatability, because we're talking about independent, um, business owners here that, you know, need some predictability. And to your point, you're only 20% of their business. And so it has to be super simple and convenient, right?
It does, and I tell people, especially when we onboard new folks, our model is we have to earn our business every single day. It's not just you sign a 5-year contract and on the franchise side, for example, which is different. You have a rough patch either from their perspective or from our perspective, and you're kind of married. You have to stick it out for a period of time. We don't have that. We have no safety net. We're walking on the tight wire every day in a very complex business, and if we don't deliver value, it's very easy for them to walk away at any moment in time. Not only supply chain, but all of our support functions as well as our field folks. It's a testament to them that we continue to grow and grow and grow. Considering tomorrow everyone could literally walk away because there's no firm contract in place.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, you don't have, control over the physical, like, four walls of the businesses that you're in, but you do have a store within a store. What does that look like?
So I'll start with outside at the pump, and our marketing team has done a phenomenal job of rebranding the organization a couple of years ago, going away from kind of the traditional crispy crunchy look and going to a really attractive blue, clean, attractive, easy to pick out of a crowd branding. So starting from the outside, we have opportunities to brand from the pump all the way into the C store, and that's really dependent on local guidelines. So we have different size signage that lights up at night. We have Klingons. We have pump toppers. All of that. That's really dependent on the operator's availability to invest in the business, as well as local guidelines. We have some that go all out, and especially for grand opening, and you would think that's all they're selling, to some that are much more subtle. Okay, so then once you go in, what really draws you to Crispy Crunchy and what's consistent is we have a hot food case, which we have a schematic of where the food goes so that it holds best, so that it shows best, and we have a wrap that goes around the hot food case. We've got a very attractive graphics for our menu boards, which are right above the hot food case, usually hanging from the ceiling or the wall. But that's really the focal point of the location. We're cooking to serve, to hold and then to serve, versus cooking to order. So they're coming in. Hopefully, they're smelling the product because it's just been cooked within the past little while. We've got great customer service behind the counter to be able to get them their fried chicken quickly so that they can get back on the road.
I love it. And in your business, especially, the brand is everything, right? The brand is what gets you into more locations. And that brand familiarity is what, I guess, even the independents want, because that's what attracts folks to take that U-turn or that right turn to get into their location and walk inside, right? That must be one of the core fundamental needs of the business that you always protect and preserve and spread brand awareness, right?
Yeah, brand consistency and brand awareness are both paramount for us. We have data, we have credit card data that we show as part of the selling process, real data that we can obviously track by location to come in and say, hey, your neighbor down the street, they had X% lift in their merchandise because of the brand. People want this brand, right? And correspondingly, a lot of our operators that decide to walk away on their own for one reason or another, they see that decline and they come back. They proactively come back. So it's constantly understanding and creating, I think marketing calls it unaided brand awareness, where people identify Crispy Crunchy, kind of when you say fried chicken, you say Crispy Crunchy. Our aided brand awareness is also increasing when people say, hey, have you heard of Crispy Crunchy? And our raving fans say, absolutely the best chicken, I need to find one right now. So brand awareness and brand consistency, it's kind of a 1-2 punch for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the term raving fans, resonates, right? And you can create raving fans, your business will be set. Now, from what I understand, like since your affiliation with the Red Sox, it has actually helped, with sales for locations that are around the stadium as well. Tell us about that.
We've done some data mining, and we found that locations within a certain radius of the stadium, since we've opened up, since we've advertised, now we have packaging that is available for those locations that is co-branded between the Red Sox and Crispy Crunchy. But we've seen quite a significant lift for those operators in those locations, and the word of mouth of people coming in that we're hearing from our operators to say, hey, I was at Fenway, I've never heard of Crispy Crunchy, I had it, I loved it, and realized that my favorite convenience store has Crispy Crunchy. And so we're having a lot of those conversations. The packaging just launched within kind of the New England area of co-branding. So we're expecting that to continue to build on itself, and then as we go into other sports venues across the U.S., we'll tweak that model and hopefully see similar success.
Nice, nice. Now you mentioned that you're exploring new partnerships with larger C-store chains. What has led to that? Previously you were doing more work with independent business owners and made a strategic move and are intentional about finding partnerships with the larger players. I'm curious as to what kind of drove that, and then two, does that change your operating model and bring in either some ease of scale, or does it bring in new challenges?
So I think a couple things. One, if you look at overarching, we have started listening more than telling the chains how we do things. So in the past, it's, hey, this is the Crispy Crunchy program, and it's been really focused on those independent operators, and the chains have come in and said, hey, we'd like to do something differently, and we weren't listening. So I would say we've become much more open to bending and flexing and doing things we maybe wouldn't have done before. Okay. Another thing that is a huge unlock for us is, we have partnered. We've really leveraged our supplier partners, on the equipment side, on the food side, and on the distribution side. And a lot of these inroads we're getting right now are because of our strategic partnership with Cisco. It's that partnership. Wow, you've got all of these things, and it's easy because we're already doing business with Cisco. And then the brand is another piece. The chains in the past, when they've been talking to us, one of the things we've said no to is our brand versus theirs. And now we're having collaborative conversation, but also with our brand awareness improving and them seeing the value in the brand. I think they're more open to the brand. So it's a lot of things that are contributing. And I think it starts with, just listening and having a conversation versus it's our way or the highway, which, we have certainly moved far away from that. What does it change for our model? I think it's too early to tell, Sid. I will tell you the infrastructure that a lot of these chains have is significant and impressive, and their consistency on their brand products is just off the charts. C-stores seize the opportunity, take that guest away from QSR and fast casual. They've done a great job. We think it's going to make things easier for us and less resource driven, but we're not sure. We want to make sure. I know they're reporting and a lot of the analytics that we're building our new tech stack for. There's a lot bigger lift there. But yeah, we'll see. But again, I go back to we're listening. We're trying to be a good partner to these folks, and we're trying to be accommodating, and we're putting a lot of resources in to be able to answer their questions, provide analytics, for example, provide that retraining. So I guess time will tell. So if you invite me back in a year or two, I'll answer the question more just in time.
That's perfect. Um, as you look at the next 3 to 5 years, what would success look like for you? More locations that you're in, or just more brand awareness, and how would you measure that?
It's more locations. It's improvement in location level business. So whether it's same store sales or pounds or however we measure it, it's improving the valuation of the organization. We are private equity owned, and at the end of the day, we have shareholders to report to. And brand awareness, absolutely, for sure. I mean, if we can continue this trajectory of folks coming to us versus us always having to come to them, that's a great thing. And the more people that know who we are, and we start to build momentum, right? We're starting to see that now on our third party and our first party apps where people are actually searching. We're finding searching for Krispy Krunchy more and more and more. So we get that flywheel. That's the word I was looking for, flywheel. We get that flywheel moving, which it is, and really we start to see results in all those areas.
Love it. Let's, zoom out a little bit and talk about the industry, and maybe you can switch hats for a second, right? Are there trends in the food service and restaurant world that you're looking at, and with all your experience in the space, that either are super exciting or maybe you're, a little concerned about?
I'll start with concern. Traffic has been flat to down for many years, and the way most folks have seen growth is through adding additional units and taking price, right? And no one's come out and said it's whether it's saturation, it's value, it's what the root cause is. I know that there's a lot of competition going on at both QSR and at C Store, for example, for the guest, and it's almost that you have to take a guest away to have incremental growth yourself. So that is a very concerning trend to me, and people talk about it, but I feel like no one's really solved it, right? Other than maybe a couple like Chipotle and some others, but it's a real concern. It keeps me up at night thinking about how do we reverse this? Where is that traffic really going? And I feel like there's a lot of heavy lifting to figure out how to solve that puzzle.
Interesting. So you're saying even post COVID, because it felt like post COVID there was this kind of revenge travel, revenge going out to dine kind of motion where the restaurants were always full. Do you have that view on fast casual and full service, or do you think that one is maybe doing better than the other?
I do think there was a resurgence, and everything you said after post COVID was true. I just think right now it's almost like you have to take traffic and you have to take guests away from someone else. Part of that is our population and where our population is aging and the income disparity in the different generations. So I think it's going to be an interesting trend to watch, and I think just being super buttoned up, having great brand awareness, a lot of things we're doing. I feel confident in our position, but it's something that, as I think about it, I could see a number of things happening over the next few years. One of which would be some culling of some brands in the industry that just can't make it. But we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. The macroeconomic trends play a huge hand in this, right? I mean, inflation's up and things are getting more expensive. And that impacts how people, look at their wallet and decide when they're gonna, go out and eat food, and where they're gonna order from, what kind of food they're gonna eat, and whether they're gonna go out and, have a full meal, or they're gonna, take a drive through and grab a bite, right? So I'm sure things are changing a lot in just the past like 6 months to a year. In your view, like just the world that we live in and how things have changed in terms of how brands are interacting with their customers. drive-throughs have made a comeback. There's a huge percentage of food being ordered through third-party apps. How does one stand out in a world like that with so much change, and so much going on, with so many avenues where consumers expect to interact with your brand? You have to really be on top of where you're meeting the customer, and each of that omni-channel experience has to be top notch, right? For you to be a top quality product that continues to kind of grow and win.
So I think the wild card in all of this, before I get into some specifics, is, are people going to learn how to cook again? Is cooking going to become something that we love, right? And I think about that as the wild card. Like I'm from a generation where, if I wouldn't have learned how to cook, I don't know how I would have survived certain points in my life. But a lot of younger people, they just have no idea, right? So I think that's a wild card. I think the way to be successful, and the way I would position, is there's two goalposts for me. One is convenience and consistency, and the other is guest experience. And when I say that, right, and if you can do both, great. But I don't know anybody that does both great. And what I mean by that is, I'm on the one end of the spectrum where it's super easy to order my food. It always arrives on time, hot, complete, whether I dine in or whether I grab it, if I get a delivery or pickup or what have you. It's consistent, right? It's consistent and easy. Boom. I think that's the majority. On the other end of the spectrum, folks still, on occasion, want to go out and just have great hospitality, right? So I'm going to a place where I'm going to get a great experience. I'm going to have great ambiance and be able to go out with my spouse or partner or whatever and have that experience. I think if you can't deliver one of those two, it's going to be very, very challenging to stand out, right? And when I think about Krispy Crunchy, we definitely don't have the ambiance, at least in the channels we are right now. So how do we deliver to where it's easy, it's consistent, and it's like, hey, I just need something fast that I know is going to be good and it's going to be here on time. I'm not going to have to hassle with it. That's where I think our sweet spot is, Sid. There's concepts out there that you think about, that you go to for that ambiance and that experience, that are doing just as well. So, but kind of in the middle is, like Mr. Miyagi said in Karate Kid, squish just like grape or whatever. You got to be on one or the other, in my opinion.
There's a lot of other changes that are happening with AI and robotics and new technologies coming into the restaurant space. You look at what's going on now. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think that's going to change the world of hospitality?
I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity, at least for certain guests that embrace that, for robotics, automation, kiosks, things like that, for that consistency. That give me the reliable, consistent, easy button. Where we're going with AI is really on building consistency in how we run our business, right? So we really haven't necessarily got into robotics. Our operators, some of them have tested kiosks, for example. It's really hard to fit a kiosk into a C store with all of the other traffic at this point. But look, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised by anything. I get a daily feed of an AI and robotics newsletter, and there are things going on outside of our industry that would just blow your mind if you're not aware of it, that's happening with AI and robotics. So right now, I would not be surprised by anything. I think it's going to make a huge difference. I think we'll still have, on that other end of the spectrum, folks that they want to be served by a human being in a fine dining restaurant, or a night out with your significant other. So I think really embracing and testing AI and robotics, where it makes sense and where your guest accepts it. I mean, think about guest complaints, guest feedback, right? There are a lot of companies out there that don't have humans involved in that at all, right? The technology has just advanced so much to where you're calling into a complaint line and you're talking to a machine, right? And most folks don't even realize that. So sky's the limit. I'm very bullish on AI and robotics, but again, testing.
Yeah, yeah. As you look into the future, and you look at where the industry is going, we're in, there's no question, we're in very exciting times. But what does the future look like? Any bets that you're making, and what does the consumer of tomorrow look like?
I really think the consumer of the future, it's almost like the Jetsons, right? It's like it's easy. Press a button or speak into Siri or what have you, and everything is there. And then, hey, it's Friday night. I've had a hectic week. I want to go out and get hospitality. I just think it's going to accelerate, Sid. And I don't know what that split's going to be, if it's going to be, 80-20, 70-30, 90-10. But I just think we're going to continue to get to a place where, I mean, the Jetsons example, if I could get my Chipotle order just by talking to my phone and it just showed up, I didn't even have to go outside, but it was brought into my kitchen. I mean, that would be fantastic, right? And I could see that happening in the next few years, but I still want to take my wife out to dinner on the weekend and just sit around for a couple hours and have cocktails and a nice dinner and be served by a polite, person giving great hospitality.
Love it. No, I agree with you. I mean, look, there's going to be a lot of changes in the future, but I think one thing which will be true, which is the basics, right? Great food, big smile, feeling special, and enjoying a meal with a loved one, right? What's interesting is this is our second recording for the season, and Jetsons have been brought up on both episodes so far, and not starting by me. So that's pretty funny that that you bring the Jetsons up too. But 100% appropriate, and the way things are going, that might not be too far off, right? Um, as you look at the future for Crispy Crunchy, what do we have to look forward to? What can we expect with the brand?
I think we've talked about diversification in channels. You'll start to see us in places that, wow, didn't even realize that crispy crunchy could be served here or under this venue. I think you're going to see us becoming maybe not a leader, maybe not cutting edge in digital sales, but you're going to see us have a presence that we've never had. And again, that's already started. And I think it's just really thinking about, how do we scale this brand globally, right? So there's all the channels in the U.S. Pretty hard to do fresh chicken starting up in a lot of countries, but we're trying to figure out how to do that. So a global presence. I just don't think that I don't think we have a lot of limits as to channels or countries or platforms. So really doubling down, making it easy for the consumer, making it easy for our operator. And then who knows? Maybe at some point we'll have our own restaurants, but that's definitely not on the table today. But I would not rule that out for a long-term plan.
That sounds great. Well, congratulations to you and the entire team on your success so far, and I wish you all the very best. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of Crispy Crunchy. So that's something for me to look forward to. In terms of advice for folks in our audience who are listening in, what advice would you give those leaders in terms of how they can make an impact with the brands that they're serving, and how to be better at serving the customer and offering a great experience?
I guess the simple answer to that, Sid, would be just make sure you're constantly listening and measuring and having humility in what you're hearing. I've seen brands that they lose sight of what the consumer changing preferences are, and they say, well, it's worked this way for X number of years. So just listening, measuring, being willing to change, being willing to say, hey, what worked yesterday doesn't work today. That would be the number one, and that's just really based upon history and being with brands that in the past where I thought, wow, we're gonna be an industry leader forever, and that can change quickly.
Humility is a word that you don't always hear, but it's one of the most powerful, I guess, personal principles that can help you grow and I guess be in the habit of listening, right? So thank you for that. For folks in our audience who want to look you up and learn more about Crispy Crunchy, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn or crispycrunchy.com.
Perfect. Once again, Joe, Thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I really appreciate you taking the time. For all those in our audience, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you on the next episode of Elevating Brick and Mortar. Well, that was Joe Gordon, Chief Supply Chain and Technology Officer at Krispy Krunchy Chicken. Krispy Krunchy Chicken doesn't have their own locations. Their entire model is built on providing great food within C-stores in a kind of store-in-store concept. This makes it even more crucial to focus on consistent quality and brand experience. Clearly, they've done this right, because they're in 3,400 locations and growing, and are now even the official fried chicken for the Boston Red Sox. What is clear is that Krispy Krunchy Chicken is growing fast, and I'm sure you can expect to see a lot more of them around the country. They're showing us that you don't need a storefront to build a national food brand. Just the right partners, systems, and brand discipline. With that, I'm your host, Sid Shetty, and I'll see you on the next episode of Elevating Brick and Mortar.
Operations and facilities teams across industries rely on ServiceChannel to ensure that their locations provide the best possible guest experience. Keep customers coming back by lowering downtime and raising your brand standards. Visit ServiceChannel.com to learn more.